The house where no one laughed. Keanu Reeves sat at the edge of a twin-sized bed, one hand resting gently on a small child's back. The room was dark except for the soft yellow glow of a night light shaped like a moon. Beside him, another bed stood with its blanket untouched, a stuffed rabbit clutched tightly in the arms of a sleeping girl. The little boy in front of him blinked at the ceiling, his eyes wide, silent tears tracking down his cheeks. He hadn't said a word in 30 minutes. Neither had Keanu. Because words didn't work anymore. Not in this house. Not since Leila died. His wife had been the heart of their world, gentle, musical, alive in the way sunshine makes flowers bloom. The twins, Leo and Lila, had once been loud, curious, and full of laughter. Now, laughter was gone. Bedtime had become a battlefield of silence and shadows. The doctor had said grief hits children differently. They don't talk about it. They dream it. They feel it in their bodies. They fear that if they sleep, someone else might disappear. Keanu leaned down, kissed Leo's forehead, and whispered, "I'm still here." But Leo didn't blink. When he finally left the room, Keanu walked the hallway with shoulders pulled low, his steps quiet. The house was too big now. Every photo on the wall, every empty chair, every quiet piano key reminded him of what was missing. He tried. He really tried. He cooked their favorite meals. He read bedtime stories. He sang lullabies in a voice broken by emotion. But nothing reached the twins. Not really. Leo barely spoke. Lila flinched at sudden sounds. They hadn't slept through the night in 6 weeks. Keanu, once a man whose face was known around the world, now stood defeated in his own home, unable to fix the one thing that mattered most. The next morning, his friend Avery came by. She was a social worker who'd helped Keanu during the hospital days. They'd stayed in touch since. She watched the twins quietly while they colored with distant eyes. "They need more than love right now," she said. "They need someone who speaks grief's language." Keanu nodded, rubbing his eyes. "I've tried every nanny agency. No one lasts more than a few days." Avery hesitated, then pulled a card from her bag. "There's someone I want you to meet. Her name is Miss Harriet. She doesn't use apps, doesn't advertise. But she's different." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" "She helped a child once who hadn't spoken in a year," Avery said. "The boy started talking in his sleep after 2 weeks with her." Keanu stared at the card. The handwriting was elegant. No logo, just a phone number and the name, Miss Harriet Jameson. "She's not young," Avery added. "She's in her 60s. And she's very direct." Keanu gave a tired smile. "I'll take honest over polished any day," he called that evening. Her voice answered on the second ring, low, steady, warm like a slow-burning fire. "Yes, this is Harriet." "Hi," Keanu said. "My name is Keanu. I got your number." From Avery, a long pause. "I know who you are," she said softly. "But tell me who your children are." Keanu felt something shift. He spoke slowly about Leo and Lila, their silence, their fears, the sleep that never came. Harriet didn't interrupt once. When he finished, she said, "I'll come tomorrow at 9. The next morning, just before 9, the front gate buzzed. Keanu opened it to find a tall black woman in a wide-brimmed navy hat and a gray coat, walking with a cane that tapped rhythmically against the stone path. Her eyes were calm, knowing, like she'd seen pain and learned how to sit with it. "You must be Mr. Reeves," she said with a small nod. Keanu stepped aside. "Please, just Keanu." She entered the house and looked around. Not at the furniture, not at the photos. But at the air. "This house is grieving," she said simply. "You can hear it." He nodded. She removed her coat slowly, revealing a long blue dress and hands lined with time. "Where are the children?" "In the playroom," Keanu said. "They're shy." Harriet walked to the room without asking for permission. Keanu followed silently. Inside, the twins sat on the floor. Lila held her rabbit. Leo stared at the wall. Harriet knelt down slowly, eye level with them. "Hello," she said. "I'm Harriet, but you can call me Nana H if you like. I'm here to sit with the sad until it doesn't feel so heavy." The twins didn't respond. Harriet didn't push. She simply sat, not speaking, not watching, just being. After 10 minutes, she hummed a low tune, no words, just sound. It was something gentle, like wind in tall grass. Lila looked up, then Leo. Keanu stood at the doorway, stunned. Harriet spoke again. You don't have to talk. I brought something with me. It's a box, and inside it is a story. She reached into her bag and pulled out an old wooden box. She opened the lid. Inside were tiny cloth puppets, each hand-sewn, each with its own face. This one, she said, holding up a puppet in a red cloak, is brave. Not loud, just brave enough to keep waking up. The children watched, eyes wide. And then it happened. Leo reached out, touched the puppet. Keanu single quotes hand went to his mouth. Harriet met his eyes, but said nothing. Later that night, the twins asked if Nana H could read them a story. Keanu brought her a book. She smiled gently. No, tonight, we tell one together. They sat on the floor in their pajamas. And for the first time in weeks, the twins listened. They whispered. They even giggled once. When the clock struck 10, Lila was asleep in her bed. Leo followed minutes. Later. Keanu stood in the hallway, watching, tears quietly rolling down his face. Harriet stepped beside him. Grief is not a problem to be solved, she said. It's a guest to sit beside, and eventually, it will leave if we treat it with kindness. Keanu nodded, overwhelmed. He had no idea that this woman, this soft-spoken stranger, had just begun something far bigger than healing his children. She was about to reveal a part of herself that would leave everyone speechless. And it all began with a puppet. The red book no one touched. The morning after the twins finally slept, the house felt different. It wasn't louder, it wasn't busier, but it had shifted like a door that had been stuck for months, had creaked open just enough to let the breeze in. Keanu walked into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. The smell of warm oats and cinnamon met him like a hug. Harriet stood by the stove, stirring slowly, humming that same soft tune from the night before. Good morning, she said without turning. Keanu blinked. You're up early. Grief wakes before the sun, she replied, setting to small bowls on the counter. The twins appeared seconds later, like quiet shadows. Lila climbed onto a chair without a word. Leo sat beside her. They ate slowly. No arguments, no tears. Keanu watched, stunned. He hadn't seen a meal this peaceful in weeks. They didn't wake up once, he whispered. Harriet nodded. Children don't always need answers. Sometimes they just need presence. Something steady, something real. After breakfast, she pulled out her wooden box again. This time, the puppets were dressed differently. A yellow scarf, a green hat, a small stitched tear on one. Today, she said, we tell a story about a puppet who lost her way but found something in the woods. Lila leaned forward. Was she scared? Harriet smiled, terrified, but she walked anyway. The children listened, fully engaged. And somewhere in the story, Lila started drawing trees, a sun, and a girl in red. Leo added a cloud and a small rabbit. Keanu watched from the doorway. His chest ached, not from pain but from the strange, beautiful sting of hope. After the children went to nap, Harriet brewed tea in the kitchen. Keanu sat across from her, stirring his cup in silence. Who taught you how to do this? He asked. You seem to know what people need without asking. Harriet looked out the window. When you grow up with absence, you learn to recognize it in others. My mother died when I was 6. My father worked the docks. We didn't talk about feelings. We just survived. But when I was older, I met a librarian who changed everything. Keanu leaned in. How she handed me a red book, Harriet said. No title, no pictures, just a story about a woman who could hear people's pain like music. Every note meant something different. Anger was a trumpet. Sadness was a cello. Joy was a soft flute. Keanu smiled. Sounds magical. It was, Harriet said. But not because of the story. Because someone finally saw me. That's all any of us need. To be seen and remembered. He was quiet for a moment. Then he whispered. Leela used to say that too. Harriet turned to him. She's still here, you know. Not in photos. Not in clothes. In them. In their kindness. In your quiet. In the way you keep showing up even when you're falling apart. Keanu looked down. His voice broke. I don't know how to fix them. Harriet reached across the table and gently touched his hand. "They're not broken, they're just wounded, and wounds don't heal from fixing. They heal from feeling safe." Later that evening, the twins asked Harriet if she could stay the night again. "Just a night?" Leo whispered. Harriet smiled. "As many nights as you need." Keanu offered to drive her home, but she shook her head. "I walk. The city listens differently when you move slowly." As she opened the door to leave, Lila ran after her and hugged her legs tightly. "You smell like Grandma's closet," she said sleepily. Harriet chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." The next morning, something unexpected happened. Keanu entered the study, a room he hadn't touched since Lila's funeral. Her journals, music sheets, and photo albums sat untouched. The piano keys were dusty, the walls quiet. But something was different now. On the center table was a red book. He froze. It wasn't there yesterday. He picked it up slowly. No title. Just red leather, worn at the edges. He opened the first page. Inside was a handwritten note in soft cursive. "To the one still standing, this story will guide you home." His heart raced. He flipped through the pages. Each page had a short line, followed by a small sketch. The first line read, "A man with a broken voice meets a girl with silent dreams." He stared at it for minutes. Then a memory came back. His wife. Reading to the twins. A red book in her lap. Where did this come from? He whispered. He carried it into the hallway. The twins were playing in the sunroom. Harriet stood nearby, folding a small blanket. "This book," Keanu said, holding it out. "How did it get here?" Harriet turned. "It's yours," she said. Softly, "It was hers." Harriet nodded. "And now it's yours again." Keanu opened his mouth to ask more but stopped, because Lila had started singing. Just 3 notes, soft and off-key, but it was the lullaby Lila used to sing. Keanu dropped to his knees, overcome. Harriet sat beside him. When they feel safe, they remember. That night, after the twins fell asleep, Keanu found Harriet sitting by the piano. "You knew her, didn't you?" he asked quietly. Harriet looked at him for a long moment. Then said, "Yes, a long time ago." Keanu stepped back. "How? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you weren't ready," she replied. "And because some truths heal better when they wait." Keanu stared at her. What are you saying?" Harriet looked toward the hallway where the twins slept. "I'm saying that I wasn't just sent by a friend. I was asked by Lila. Months before she passed." Keanu couldn't breathe. "She left a letter," Harriet whispered, "and a promise that when her light faded, someone would come to help carry yours." Keanu collapsed into the nearest chair. Heart thudding. Everything changed in that moment, because the woman who saved his children's sleep had been sent by the woman who could no longer speak. The letter behind the photo frame. Keanu Reeves sat motionless in the dark living room, the red book resting in his lap, his eyes lost in the firelight. Behind him, the clock ticked softly. The house was quiet again, but it no longer felt empty. The silence had changed. It was full of meaning now. Harriet sat across from him, her hands folded, her expression still and calm, like she had been waiting years to finally speak the truth. "You said Lila asked you," Keanu whispered, "before she passed." Harriet nodded. "She reached out 6 months before she got sick. She told me she didn't want to frighten you, said you were good at taking care of everyone but yourself. She wanted to make sure the children had someone who understood quiet grief." Keanu looked down. "But why you?" Harriet smiled gently. "Because she was my student, long ago, when she was just 16. Keanu's eyes widened. "I taught at a small art school outside Savannah. Lila came in the middle of the semester. Shy, brilliant, soft-spoken. She carried a notebook full of music and sorrow. I saw pieces of myself in her." Keanu leaned forward. "You never told me. It wasn't time." Harriet said, "Until tonight." Keanu stood and walked slowly to the piano. A photo frame sat on top him, Lila, and the twins in the garden. Back when Lila had missing front teeth and Leo wore superhero pajamas every day. He lifted the frame. Behind it was a small folded envelope. His heart stopped. His name written in Lila's handwriting. "She left this," Harriet said softly, For when you were ready, with trembling hands, Keanu opened the envelope and unfolded the letter. My Keanu, if you're reading this, then you're finally letting yourself feel again. I know it's been hard. I know the nights are heavy. I know the silence of our children feels like a scream in your chest. But I also know you. I know your heart, your quiet strength, your kindness. So I found someone who once helped me find my music again when I thought I'd lost it. Her name is Harriet. She will not fix things. She will simply remind you that you don't have to do it alone. And that is enough. Tell our children stories. Play the piano again. Sleep without guilt. I love you, always, Leela. By the end, Keanu's vision was blurred. He pressed the letter to his chest and sat down hard on the bench. Harriet stood, walked to the window, and pulled back the curtain. Moonlight spilled across the room. Your children are beginning to heal, she said. But they'll need to see you do the same. Keanu turned toward her. How? I don't even know where to begin. Start with music, Harriet said. Start with the thing you and Leela shared. Not because it will make the pain disappear, but because it will give it somewhere to rest. The next morning, Keanu found an old music folder in the attic. It was dusty, full of scribbled notes and chords they used to play together. Lullabies, fragments, duets. He brought it downstairs. After breakfast, he asked the twins, would you help me with something today? Leo nodded. Laila said, only if Nana H plays too. Harriet smiled. We'll make our own band. They set up a makeshift stage in the living room. Pots became drums. A wooden spoon became a baton. Keanu dusted off the piano keys and played the first note in months. Soft, unsure. Then, stronger. Laila danced in slow circles. Leo hummed quietly. Harriet clapped her hands in rhythm. Yes, yes. Let the house hear joy again. They laughed for the first time since the funeral. That afternoon, as the twins napped, Keanu sat outside with Harriet under the old fig tree. Birds chirped. The wind was gentle. Why do you do this? He asked. Why help people who are drowning in grief? Harriet took a long breath. Because when I was drowning, no one came. And I remember what it felt like you were screaming underwater and no one could hear you. I decided if I ever made it to shore, I'd go back and pull others out. Keanu looked at her, a new kind of respect forming in his chest. Not because of what she had done, but because of how quietly she carried it all. Do you think the kids will forget her? He asked, voice raw. No, Harriet said. But they will stop hurting every time they remember her. That's healing, not forgetting, remembering without pain. Keanu closed his eyes and whispered, I want that too, you'll get. There, Harriet said gently. But only if you stop trying to be strong for them and just be human with them. That night, Keanu lit candles across the house. He told the twins stories about Leela, funny ones, sad ones. Stories about when she spilled cake batter on his motorcycle or danced barefoot in the rain. The kids laughed and asked for more. Then Lila crawled into his lap and whispered, Can we say goodnight to Mommy? Keanu blinked. How? Harriet knelt beside them. However feels right. So they each took turns. Leo whispered to the sky, Good night, Mommy. I brushed my teeth, Lila said. Good night, Mommy. We played band today. I miss your songs. Keanu looked up, tears in his eyes. Good night, love. Thank you for sending her. After the kids were asleep, Harriet stepped onto the back porch. She looked out over the yard, hands in her coat pockets. Keanu joined her, quieter than usual. You're doing something to this house, he said. No, she replied. I'm just listening. The house is doing the rest. A long silence passed. Then, Keanu asked something that had been growing in his mind for days. Will you stay longer? Harriet looked at him with tired eyes, eyes that held oceans. As long as they need me, she said. He nodded. Neither of them knew what would happen next, because tomorrow, someone from Lila's past would knock on their door. A woman no one expected. With a secret that could break everything or bring it fully to life. The stranger at the Gateeth morning began like the others had since Harriet arrived, quiet, slow, and full of warmth. Keanu cooked scrambled eggs while the twins built a fort in the living room using every pillow in sight. Harriet sat on the floor beside them, helping tie sheets across chairs, her cane resting beside her like an old friend. Fortress of dreams, Lila declared, crawling under the blanket tunnel. And nightmares can't come in, Leo added with a serious face. Harriet touched the edge of the fabric gently. Only love gets through this door. Keanu smiled at the sound of his children laughing again. The house, once a monument to silence and grief, now hummed with low, steady life. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, but real. Just as he set plates on the table, the front gate buzzer rang. Strange, he thought. They weren't expecting anyone. He walked to the video screen and pressed the button. A woman stood at the gate. Tall, slim, late 30s, carefully dressed in gray slacks and a crisp coat. She wore glasses and carried a leather folder under one arm. Keanu squinted. She looked familiar. Can I help you? He asked through the intercom. The woman tilted her head. Yes, I'm sorry to come unannounced. My name is Renee Jameson. I believe Harriet is staying with you. Keanu blinked. And you are her daughter. He stared at the screen. One moment, he said, and buzzed the gate open. As the woman walked up the path, Harriet, who had just stood to stretch, froze in the hallway. Her hands slowly lowered. Her eyes closed for a second longer than a blink. Keanu turned to her. You didn't tell me you had a daughter. Harriet straightened her back. We haven't spoken in years. Renee stepped inside the front door. Her eyes met Harriet's. There was no embrace. Just long, heavy silence. Hi, Mama, Renee said softly. You look well, Harriet replied. The air in the hallway felt dense. Keanu gently herded the kids to the kitchen. Why don't you just show me how to build a dream fort? They ran ahead, distracted. Harriet and Renee remained. Finally, Harriet spoke. You didn't write. Not once. Renee held her folder closer. I didn't know how. Not after the fight. Not after what you said. Harriet's voice was low. And what was that? That I wasn't strong enough to be a mother, Renee whispered. Keanu, listening quietly just beyond the doorway, turned his face away. It wasn't his place, but the words hit hard. Harriet stood straighter. You asked me to raise your son, and then left him with me for years. Renee's voice cracked. I was drowning. I didn't know what else to do, and you never forgave me. I forgave you, Harriet said, but I couldn't let you forget. Renee closed her eyes. He's 17 now. He asked about you. Said he remembers the stories, the puppets. Harriet's hand moved slightly. Does he hate me? No. Renee said. He said, you made him feel safe when no one else did. Harriet took a breath, and for the first time since she arrived at Key News, her shoulders slumped. Then maybe I did one thing right. Renee reached into her folder and pulled out a paper. There's a family retreat in Maine for reconciliation, mother-daughter, parent-child. I'm going. I want you to come. Harriet looked at the paper, but didn't take it. Keanu stepped into the hallway now, quietly. You don't have to decide today, he said gently, but maybe the way you've helped us. It's time someone helped you too. Harriet turned toward him, her face unreadable. That night, after the kids were asleep, she sat alone in the backyard. The stars were out, clear and sharp above the trees. Keanu sat beside her, offering a cup of tea. You never spoke about her, he said, because my shame was louder than my love, Harriet whispered. She asked me for help, and I gave her discipline. She wanted comfort, and I gave her responsibility. I wanted her to be strong, but I forgot she needed softness first. You were doing your best, Keanu said, and sometimes, she replied, our best still leaves wounds. They sat in silence. Do you think she came because of Leela? Keanu asked. Harriet looked toward the stars. Maybe, or maybe. She just wanted to find the version of me that helped strangers but not her. Keanu reached into his pocket and handed her the red book. This saved me. Harriet ran her hand across the leather. Then maybe it's time I read it again. As a student this time, in the morning. The twins came downstairs to find Harriet at the piano. She was playing the melody Leela had written when she was pregnant. Soft, slow, like a lullaby wrapped in memory. Where's Nana H going? Lila asked. Keanu knelt beside her. She might take a little trip soon, to help someone else who loves her. Leo frowned. But who's gonna help us sleep? Harriet smiled, turning from the piano. You will, Us, Lila said. Yes, Harriet said. You'll help each other now. You'll sing the lullabies, tell the stories, because grief is a long road. But you've already walked the hardest part. Before she left that afternoon, Harriet pulled Keanu aside. I left something in the bookshelf, she said. Behind the big green one. It's for you. After she drove away with her daughter, Keanu walked to the shelf. Behind the green book was a box. Inside, he found 2 letters, one for Leo and one for Lila to be read when they turned 18, and a 3rd envelope marked with his name. He opened it slowly. Keanu, you are not broken. You are brave. And the fact that you asked for help means you are already healing. This house is alive again. Don't let it go quiet. Tell the stories, sing the songs, and when the time comes, be someone's Harriet. He folded the letter gently, placed it back in the box, and closed it. He looked toward the hallway, where the children giggled beneath their blanket fort. He smiled, because something had changed. Again, and it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something they would carry forever. Lullabies without words. Days after Harriet's departure passed like the turning of soft pages. Quiet, slow, and full of echoes. Not echoes of grief, but of moments starting to bloom again. Keanu Reeves woke earlier now, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. When he walked past the twins' room each morning, he no longer braced for silence or crying. Instead, he found them already awake, whispering stories to each other under the covers. What happened to the brave puppet next? Lila would ask. She crossed the river of forgotten things. Leo would reply. Harriet single quotes s puppets, now resting in a cloth basket beside their bed, had become part of their lives, symbols of healing stitched in fabric. One morning, Keanu stepped into the kitchen to find Lila humming softly as she poured cereal into 2 bowls. The melody was unfamiliar but gentle. What's that song? He asked. I don't know, she said. It just came into my head. He smiled, quietly recognizing it as the tune Harriet used to hum during bedtime. You know, Keanu said, sitting beside her, you sound like your mom when you do that. Lila beamed. That afternoon, the mail arrived. Keanu sorted through the stack distractedly until he saw a cream-colored envelope with no return address. He opened it. Double quotes Reeves. I was the nurse who cared for your wife during her final week. I wasn't allowed to speak much while on shift, but she asked me to do one thing, to find a woman named Harriet Jameson. She said, when my children forget how to sleep, she'll know what to do. Your wife didn't ask for comfort. She planned ahead, and I thought you should know that. I hope you and your children are finding rest. Nurse Lena. Keanu sat in silence, the letter trembling in his hand. He looked up at the ceiling, whispered, You were always thinking of them, even when I couldn't. Later that night, as the twins played outside in the yard, Keanu sat at the old piano, opening Lila's music journal. Pages were filled with half-written lyrics, melodies, little drawings of stars and clouds beside notes. He found one entry near the middle, titled For the Nights They Forget I'm Near. There were only 3 lines. They don't have to see me to feel the warmth if you keep singing. He read it again, and again. Then he began to play. The notes were gentle at first, then fuller, not flawless, but honest. The twins came running inside barefoot, pausing in the hallway. Daddy's playing, Leo whispered. They didn't interrupt. They just sat on the floor and listened. After the last note, Lila asked, Was that a mommy song? Keanu nodded. Yes, and tomorrow, we're going to write one together. The next day, they started recording their own lullaby. Keanu played piano. Leo clapped a slow rhythm with 2 wooden spoons. Lila sang soft notes into a phone's voice memo app. They named the song Hope in the Hallway, and they played it every night before bed. One evening, as they recorded the latest version, a knock came at the door. A woman in her 40s stood outside, holding a small notepad and a nervous smile. Mr. Reeves, she said, I'm sorry to come uninvited. I'm from the Center for Childhood Grief and Emotional Recovery. My daughter attends the same art class as your twins. She said, something about the music you've been making together. Keanu stepped onto the porch, unsure. What about it? She said. Lila sings about her mother, but it doesn't sound sad. It sounds like light. The woman hesitated, then added, "Would you consider sharing it? Even anonymously. We help families who've lost parents. We make recordings, videos, stories. The way your children are healing could help others." Keanu paused. He looked back inside at the twins, now dancing around the piano bench. He turned back to the woman and nodded. "Yes, but only if they choose." That night, he asked the twins, "Would you be okay sharing your song with other kids who are hurting?" Lila asked. "Will they sing it too?" "Maybe," Keanu said. "Maybe it'll help them fall asleep." Leo nodded. "Then yes." 3 days later, a small video was uploaded by the center. It showed only hands on piano keys, a soft child's voice humming, and a caption that read, "Written by two little hearts learning how to rest again." The video quietly went viral, not because it was flashy, not because it had a famous name, but because it was real. Hundreds of parents wrote comments. "We played this for my son after his dad died. He slept through the night. My daughter asked if the brave puppet had a brother. Thank you for this. We hadn't smiled in weeks until this lullaby." Keanu watched the comments, overwhelmed. He didn't want credit. He didn't need applause. He just wanted his children to know that their pain had become something beautiful. Harriet called the next evening. "I saw the video," she said softly. "Thank you," Keanu replied. "We wouldn't have made it here without you." "You made it," she said. "I just held the map for a while." Keanu asked, "How's your daughter?" "We're talking," Harriet said. "We're not perfect, but we're talking. That's enough." Harriet chuckled. "And you?" "Still telling stories." Keanu looked down the hall, where the twins had just built a new fort out of couch cushions. "Every night," he said. "Then you've already become the thing Leela hoped you would." He closed his eyes. "What's that?" He whispered, "Someone who stays." As the call ended, he walked toward the children. "All right," he said. "Tonight we tell a new story. One with a bridge, a puppet, and a secret moon. And a horse with wings," Lila added. Leo said. "And a house that sings when people feel safe." Keanu smiled. "Yes," he said. "A house that sings." And outside, as the moon rose, the melody of healing continued. The night the house sang, the air rolled forward like waves in slow motion. The seasons changed. The air softened, and inside the Reeves home, something sacred had settled, a peace so gentle it could only have been earned through sorrow, through story, through love that didn't need to speak loudly. The twins, once to silent shadows hiding from sleep, were now storytellers, dreamers, brave in ways only children can be after facing what they never should have. They still missed Leela. Of course they did. But now they spoke of her with warmth, not fear. They laughed at her silly dance moves. They remembered her bedtime rhymes. And most importantly, they kept her alive in the way children know best, by making her part of the magic they created daily. On the anniversary of her passing, Keanu stood before the mirror, fixing his shirt collar. Lila watched from the hallway, holding a white flower. "You nervous?" she asked. "A little," he admitted. "It's the first time I've spoken publicly about her." She walked in and handed him the flower. "Then say what she would have said." Keanu knelt and kissed the top of her head. "What's that?" "Be kind and stay when it's hard." He swallowed back emotion. Outside, a small community event had been arranged at the local school, part music showcase, part remembrance, part fundraiser for the grief support center that had helped families like theirs. Keanu stepped up to the microphone, the crowd quiet. He cleared his throat. "Thank you for being here. I don't have many words that haven't already been said. Grief is not something you get over. It's something you learn to live with, like an echo, like a second heartbeat." He looked toward the front row, where Leo and Lila sat, hands folded in their laps, Harriet beside them. "My children couldn't sleep for weeks after their mother died, and neither could I. But someone came to our door, a woman with a cane and a heart full of memory, and reminded us how to breathe again." He paused, blinking back tears. "She didn't fix us. She didn't try to erase the pain. She just stayed. And in her staying, we remembered who we were." He nodded toward the small stage. "Tonight, my children would like to share a song. One they wrote. One that helped us all find rest." The lights dimmed slightly. Leo took his place beside the keyboard. Laila stepped to the microphone. Her voice small but steady. This is called a house that sings. It's for mommy. And for anyone who forgot how to sleep. The music began soft. Keys like rain tapping gently on windows. And Lila sang. No flashy notes. No polished voice. Just truth. When the dark feels too big and the night won't end, I'll hum the song that brings back friends. I'll tell the stars we're not alone, because the house still sings even when we're grown. By the time the last note faded, the room was in tears, not out of sadness, but out of recognition. After the performance, a woman approached Keanu. Her son had passed a year earlier. She hadn't smiled in months. Your children, they brought something back to me, she whispered. I thought I lost it. Keanu touched her shoulder. Me too. As the night ended, the twins ran up to Harriet, who had quietly returned for the event. Nana H. Lila said, hugging her tightly. Did you hear the song? Harriet smiled through misty eyes. I heard every word, Leo added. We kept your puppets safe, and they kept you brave, Harriet said. Keanu stepped beside her. Thank you for staying long enough to make us whole. Harriet looked toward the stars. No one is ever whole, but if we let each other carry the cracks, we stay standing. They stood there in silence, watching the moon rise. Back at the house, Keanu tucked the children into bed. Can you stay a little longer tonight? Lila asked. Keanu smiled. Forever, if you want. She reached for his hand. No, not forever. Just until I fall asleep. He nodded, settling beside her. In the hallway, the house was quiet again, but not the old silence. Not grief. This was something else. This was the sound of peace. Of healing. Of memories stitched into new dreams. And somewhere in the middle of the night, a soft melody played from the speakers. The lullaby Leo and Lila had made. A voice, a piano, a feeling, and the house sang. Again. And always.